So far this season on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we've had two very distinct storylines. And tonight we talk about how they are on, yes, a literal collision course. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show starts now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, indeed, it is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show, and it is none of the people you're expecting to see. I've filled in a couple times this year. Both Rachel and Tehran are on assignment. You know, they're deep undercover trying to prevent the spread of Hydra. So I am here just to basically do a bucking bronco of a ride. We're going to do a quick analysis of episode 8 so that they don't have to double up when they're both supposed to be back next Sunday at 8 Pacific. But thank you so much to everyone who's joining us now. You probably know me from a lot of the Marvel shows around here at AfterBuzz, especially Marvel TV Weekly, which I do Sundays at 9 o'clock right after the S.H.I.E.L.D. after show. And over on Popcorn Talk Marvel Movie News, that's Thursdays at 1. And if you don't like me from those shows, this probably isn't going to be for you, because this is just going to be me talking a mile a minute about what I thought was a great episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've been very happy with the space storyline that we've had so far this year. And I think that we're at the point now where I need everybody to get back home. And we knew that Azel's plan somehow was going to intersect with Sarge, but I don't know about you. I did not predict that she was the proverbial big bad of this season, so I thought that was a nice twist. You know, after we saw her in last week's episode, well, we knew she was up to no good. And I think that it was just a really cool way that they've brought it all together. But let's go through the episode. Let's talk about what we saw. And a little bit later, we'll give you some news where we look ahead to next week's episode, part 2 of Collision Course. And hey, who is that actress who plays S.H.I.E.L.D.? Where do I know her from? We'll talk about that in the news segment here. But let's just talk about the fact that we ended last week. Sarge and Mac had made a deal, and they the deal gets a little bit renegotiated there, which I think makes sense from Mac's point of view. And we get both Daisy and May out there with his crew. And of course, look, if you're Sarge and you can only pick one person from your crew, it's going to have to be Snowflake, right? I mean, look, you know, everybody's great, but Snowflake is really the one with the most character. She doesn't breathe fire or anything, but she's ready to kill everyone. So I think I was excited about that, and I think it's very smart of Daisy to hold back the fact that she's Quake, aka the Destroyer of Worlds. Let's not forget that that's still out there in the galaxy. The notion that she will one day be the Destroyer of Worlds. You know, the news travels fast. Or actually, news probably doesn't travel that fast. So maybe they don't know that, you know, that threat has been neutralized. So I think I enjoy seeing that. You know, I think that dynamic was fun. The Daisy just riding shotgun with Sarge, you know, who looks like the real father figure in her life, Coulson. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic, and it was fun to see. Sarge didn't really find it to be that enjoyable, though, so he kicked Daisy out. But we get little bits of information about Sarge, and every time we get one more thing, there's like 5 more questions. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? You know, his DNA matches Coulson's. So it's not just completely random, like, oh, it just happens to look like you know? So, I mean, we've only got a few more episodes left this season. I know we'll get an answer soon, but I want my answer right now. I don't know about the rest of you. If you're watching live in the chat, please jump in. But if you're watching the archive version, leave your questions, comments, concerns about this episode and the season as a whole, and I'll get back to you. And obviously, Tehran and Rachel are more than happy to get back to you on a regular basis, as they are, of course, your normal faces out here on this show. But you know, I see a few of you there in the chat right now, and I always appreciate that. So let us know what you're thinking. Let's talk about the fact that what this plan is of Sarge's. And really, the two plans literally are on the collision course, like the title of the episode. So we're going to have this crystallized tower. We see all these people standing out in the field, you know, and they're waiting for the arrival of the Beast. And that's basically what Sarge's plan. Sarge's got a great plan. I got a big truck. I'm going to drive right into the middle of that thing and take it out. And I, for one, think that's a great plan. Of course, Sarge being Sarge, there's a little bit more at work than just that. I would think it's enough to drive a truck into a crystallized tower that is emanating from possessed bodies. But Sarge has been at this a little bit longer, and you know he's at least 100 years old, according to what we heard him say in an earlier episode. So he doesn't trust the truck to do the job. Must not be an American-made truck. So I think that he's very cagey about all of this, though. You know, Mac's not dealing all of his cards. Sarge's crew is keeping everything pretty close to the vest. And even, we'll talk about it in a moment, Sarge's own crew themselves, not completely in on the plan. So there's a lot of information being held back for our heroes on the ground. And up in space, we have the same thing happening. We've got Fitz and Simmons desperately trying to send a message home to let everybody know they're on their way. And S.H.I.E.L.D. just sort of matter-of-factly mentions that, yeah, it's so strange that you can't send a message. You know, I wouldn't know why. And she has some interesting observations, though, which is that she hasn't really seen people who are genuinely nice. You don't really run into that. And it must be nice to have a home that you care about. So we've got both of those things kind of working for her. And, you know, we talked about this yesterday on not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but on Marvel TV Weekly. We talked about this episode. And my co-host Zia and I were kind of talking about what we like is that Sarge is not being entirely upfront. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not being entirely upfront. I'm of the school of thought that S.H.I.E.L.D. is worse than Sarge. And I was this close to calling him Coulson. He just looks like him. So she is, I think what her plans are much worse. Obviously, we know what Sarge is up to. But we see, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s got the little dragons. Oh, they're so cute. Who doesn't want a toy dragon? Let us know in the chat if you wouldn't like one of those toy dragons. You know, right up until the point it like jumped down your throat and possessed you. But like to just hold and play with, it's adorable. I think that's why people tune into, you know, shows like Game of Thrones and whatnot, because everybody loves dragons. Let's be honest. You know, Kitty Pryde from the X-Men has a pet dragon named Lockheed. One of my favorite side characters. Just a little side there. So we realize that, oh yeah, she is not good when everyone on the crew ends up under her spell. And we see them kind of behaving the same way that we had seen anyone else not inspired, but possessed by the S.H.I.E.L.D. So she's basically the S.H.I.E.L.D. lady, you know. Everybody's got the old lady down at the end of the street that's got all the cats and, you know, you don't quite know what to make of her. She's the S.H.I.E.L.D. lady. She's like, hey, you want a dragon? And look at that, you're possessed. So I personally think that this is not going to end well for anyone. I don't think that Sarge's plan is going to go off without a hitch, but also S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't know that her plan is going to go off entirely the way that she's planned. But Fitz and Simmons only now, the end of this episode, just starting to think, maybe this isn't what we thought it was. And I don't know. Personally, I think that what we really need is to get the whole team back together and kind of defeat both sides of this. Also, I get a million questions for you, Sarge. Why do you look like Coulson? Why do you have his DNA? All that stuff that I was talking about earlier. So we basically get the crews in prison. So we've got Jocko and Pax. They're in holding down in the Zephyr, which that's kind of Mac changing the deal. To quote the great Lando Calrissian, this deal's getting worse all the time, but it's actually, as it turns out, that's exactly what Sarge was counting on, was the simple fact that they were gonna, you know, not trust him and follow him. So they've got them both on the Zephyr, and Pax is freaking out about it. Gives a little bit too much information, but Jocko was completely counting on that. So we get the really cool effect that I've enjoyed throughout the season, which is when they, draw a circle, or they basically figure out a way to build a wall out of something, and then they jump out of somewhere else. This time it's out of Jocko's jacket. So I love every time we've seen that effect. It's a lot different than usually when we've had teleporting in TV and movies. So I really just I'm team. I was gonna say I'm team Sarge for a second, but I'm always team S.H.I.E.L.D. That's not the problem. I just don't know who to trust out of these two sides. And while we think about it, I'll deliver this important message to you. Before we talk more about it, I did want to thank each and every one of you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. And now for us to continue here at AfterBuzz TV, we could use your help. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube, give us a rating on iTunes. It has to be the 5-star rating. You love us. Why would you give us 4? Give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment. And of course, as you know, being a part of AfterBuzz TV means so much to all of us here. And, I love getting to talk about a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Some weeks, I get to talk about it 3 times. I'll get to sit in on this show. I'll do it on Marvel TV Weekly. And we'll even carve out a little time over on Marvel Movie News, which is one of the shows that is co-hosted by Zach Wilson, who you might remember from this panel as recently as last year. So we love getting to talk about TV, and we love the fact that each and every one of you out there loves it as well. So we appreciate all of that. Let's see. So Star Drew, thanks for being in the chat, says that Sergeant the Lady has other plans. I wonder what they are. The lady, of course, being Azelle. And he thinks that she knows what Sarge is doing, but didn't tell Fitz and Simmons. And I think I agree with all of that. Also, Star Drew throws in Pax as a tool. Hard to disagree, really, but Jocko and Sarge were counting on him giving away too much information. I mean, I'm surprised. Are you surprised? Let us know in the chat if when Sarge finally materializes through the jacket and he sees Pax, he's not angry with him. I guess, to me, my interpretation of that was that they knew that he was going to be the loose lip that sank their ship. So this is, look, week to week, they're always kind of leaving you hanging with this show, but this is the literal cliffhanger of cliffhangers, where Mac has to decide what to do. He wants to know if he should shoot down the plane. And then, no, Fitz and Simmons are on the plane, but they can't in the plane, the spaceship. Look, when you come from space like I do, you think a spaceship is a plane. So that's what we call them on my planet. But the idea that he was going to shoot them down, obviously we know why that's a bad idea and why we hope that doesn't happen. But hey, at least Fitz and Simmons would die together if they finally die. Not like the last time. Sad. I know it's a little too soon for a lot of us to have seen Fitz die at the end of season 5. And if you didn't know that, what are you doing watching this episode? So I think that, I don't know. I want to know what all of you think about this episode. But I want to share my favorite part of the episode. And if you saw me on Marvel TV Weekly yesterday, I did indeed mention that it was the very unexpected dalliance, the relationship between Snowflake and Deke, or as he calls her, Snow Bunny. And when she's kind of lurking around him, talking about how she wants to set his soul free and let it ooze out of him, look, we get it. Deke's a huge hornball who drinks Zima whenever he can. She didn't understand that she meant his soul, and she just wanted to gut him and let it, ooze right out of him. So he's just like, all right, well, I guess I'm a little turned on here now that Sequoia left me brokenhearted. And I have to admit that when she woke him up and said, "You're mine," I'm like, okay, so she's going to try and kill him. I'm sure that May and Daisy are going to save him. Did not expect for them to just kind of barge in and see the compromising situation that they were in. But I thought it was very funny, and I think it's getting to see an unexpected side of Snowflake, who really just wants to see people die because she wants them to turn into beautiful butterflies. I think where she's coming from, and I don't mean where she literally comes from, what planet and that sort of thing, just her approach to life is that we all deserve to turn into beautiful butterflies. And I don't know, let me know in the chat how you feel about the flake bunny, as Star Drew called it there. And also Star Drew has the theory that maybe there's ulterior motives in here, which obviously when she was coming on to Deke to begin with, it really gave the impression that she was up to something else. But maybe she's trying to distract Sarge from the plan, especially when she gets left behind. You know, I jumped ahead, but I really wanted to save the last few minutes of this very abbreviated version of this show to focus on what did we decide we should call their celebrity couple name? We talked about this on Agents of... See, I did it again on Marvel TV Weekly. And we called them Sneak? Dough Bunny? It's hard to really tell what we should call them. Dough Flake? None of these really work. So let us know in the comments what you think. But this was definitely my favorite part of the episode. I mean, Deke was a character that I really grew to like last season, and he's definitely been the source of comic relief this season. Not that he wasn't last year, especially drinking the Zimas. But when we first meet him, and he's the shady guy who runs around the spaceship making all the deals. You know, he seems to be the plugged in guy in the black market who knows how to do everything. This version of him is a lot easier to laugh at. So, and of course, he gives away 10% of the company to Mac, really just because he doesn't want Daisy to know about the crazy, creepy VR version of Daisy that he had in his simulation. So Snoke is I think the official celebrity nickname from Aranvith Chakrapani. And man, I'm so sorry for what I did to your name. That really isn't great. But Incan TV says Deke Flake. These are all great names. You can revisit these next week when Tehran and Rachel are indeed back. And I definitely want to make sure I come back to the show before the end of the season, because maybe for the season finale. One thing that we need to talk about before we move on to news is we end on that cliffhanger where Sarge is driving the truck, and we don't know what Mac decides to do. Well, actually, Sarge is not driving the truck. The truck is on autopilot. So Sarge has left the building, as it were. The truck is steamrolling towards the Crystal Tower. And what is Mac going to decide to do? Well, we won't find out till Friday. But we get this little post-credit scene, not even post-credit, this pre-credit scene with Enoch just wheeling and dealing. And I think it was good to check in with Enoch. I really wanted to know what happened after that moment when Mac has to make the decision, but I completely understand needing to make us tune in next week. So I wonder what it is that Enoch has planned with his little Chromacom buddy. And obviously they have some great Chromacom banter throughout the season. Things like, you look the same, you as well. Apparently that is what passes for compliments in the Chromacom world. So I don't know. It's all entertaining to me. It's all definitely a lot of fun. And a couple things I wanted to talk about. We see in the coming attractions for next week, we're really going to get, I think we're going to get the resolution of this tower. But again, there's 5 more episodes this season. So it's not going to be the end. It's going to be one of those things where we think that the story's over, but there's going to be bigger and bigger bads that are only yet to come. But let me know what you think we're going to get next week for Collision Course Part 2, and we can have Rachel and Tehran revisit that here on next Sunday at 8 o'clock. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, I teased it earlier in the news, was the actress who plays Azelle with the lovely red hair, as I referenced on Marvel TV Weekly. That's what I call the Run Lola Run hair color, also seen in the Alias pilot by Jennifer Garner. Very, very sleek. That actress's name is Carolina Hydra. And you might wonder, like, I feel like I've seen her before. She was on True Blood, and she was on House. She was a recurring character on House and also on True Blood. There's a lot of other things that you would probably have seen her on, including Twin Peaks, but that was just really one episode. So, but, you know, she's been around, and I think she's got a cool space alien look. You know, it's got a little Fifth Element to it. So I know that this is a really short show, and I know it's weird where it's just me, but we wanted to make sure that we wanted to give you guys a forum. And of course, by guys, I mean you gentlemen and ladies. Billie Jean Girl 24 right now in the chat asking if this is live or recorded. This is live. We're about to end in a moment, but it is actually live. Let's see. So Stardew thinks Enoch will go back to Fitz to help him now and again. Well, we kind of know, if you think about Enoch's story in a linear fashion, what we saw happen in season 5 has yet to happen for him. This is the Enoch that's supposed to be waiting with Fitz while he's in hibernation. So we know that he and Fitz are destined to be BFFs. They're besties for sure. We'll see how it goes. And Fitz and Simmons also think that, Stardew thinks that Fitz and Simmons will save the world. And he also wonders if anybody else thinks that they'll get married in episode 12 at the end of the season, which I thought there were 13, but there might only be 12. Either way, I mean, we got a great wedding for them just because Fitz doesn't remember it. And I think that was some very funny banter that we've gotten from them in the last couple weeks, as recently as this week when she talks about her wedding night and tries to make him feel better, but only ends up making him feel worse. So always love getting Fitz and Simmons. I'm glad that we only had to go about 5 episodes before they were together, but that's the other part of the plan that we have to see what it is. The Chromacons have their minds somehow implanted in that machine they were hooked up to, so they don't even really need them somehow to figure out how to do time travel. So is their consciousness going to leave their body, go back into the machine? We don't know. That's why we tune in next week. Again, I mentioned that this was going to be a really short episode, and I delivered. I hope you enjoyed having this brief kind of overview of the show. I know that Rachel and Tehran always do their whoa moment of the show. And for me, of course, it was when they walked in on Deke and Snow Bunny, just, well, being a couple of snow bunnies, really, going at it like bunnies. And for me, that was my big whoa moment. Let us know in the chat what yours were. I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. Things will be a little bit more relaxed on Sunday when Tehran and Rachel are back. But as I mentioned in the intro, you can find me Sundays at 9 on Marvel TV Weekly and Thursdays at 1 Pacific doing Marvel movie news over on the Popcorn Talk Network. That's all the time that I have for right now, but they'll see you back on Sunday, and I'll see you on Thursday on Marvel Movie News. But until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.